Okay, we will go ahead and get started. There we go. Okay, thank you all for being here. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Freitag. I am faculty here in the biology department, and I am also currently serving as president of our academic senate. And it is my pleasure to welcome you here to our second presentation of our 2024 Senate-sponsored faculty lecture. We appreciate you joining us today in person, and I know we have a number of Zoomers joining us online. So during the presentation, there's going to be lots of interaction. I got to see a preview of it last night, so I know what we're the treat that we are in for today. There will be time at the end for some questions. In their proposal, this year's faculty lecturer showed us the consequences of menstrual stigma, ignorance, misunderstanding, bullying, school absenteeism, fear, shame, and anxiety, and explained how our culture of silence perpetuates marginalization and demonstrates the need to foster inclusive environments that contribute to mental healthiness and well-being. Those last two really resonated with me, mental healthiness and well-being. This proposal also resonated with the Academic Senate Council, who selected DVC Professor of Psychology, Dr. Carmen McNeil, as this year's faculty lecturer. On behalf of the entire Senate Council, congratulations, Dr. Carmen. Let me tell you just a bit about this year's lecturer. Dr. Carmen's journey as an educator began in 1998 as an adjunct professor at Contra Costa College, where she enjoyed teaching psychology of personality and growth. With over 25 years of experience in higher education, spanning both student services and instruction, Dr. Carmen has been instrumental in supporting students from diverse backgrounds. Her work with programs such as the Puente Project, the Umoja Program, and the Bay Area Rescue Mission underscores her dedication to equity and inclusion. Dr. Carmen joined the DVC community in 2009. We are so thankful that you did, as adjunct psychology instructor, and became full-time in 2012. She leverages her expertise by participating in activities which celebrate diversity and promote self-exploration. As a workshop facilitator for the Racial Justice Task Force's Safe Spaces gathering in spring 2022, she created a nurturing atmosphere where individuals felt valued and heard. Collaborating with esteemed colleges, such as Heidi Goen-Salter and Yvonne Canada Clark, Dr. Carmen has co-facilitated Umoja mini summer learning institutes, teaching faculty, staff, and administrators how to incorporate Umoja principles into their service of students. Her innovative approach to pedagogy is evident in her dynamic workshop sessions, including Ease on Down Your Yellow Brick Road and Student Voice plus Faculty Self-Analysis = Student Success, which she co-led with Dr. Jamil Carter. Dr. Carmen's dedication to enhancing the student experience extends to her involvement in initiatives such as the Fall 2020 U.S. Pedagogy Workshop and the Spring 2017 Sexual Assault Awareness Month event, intentionally continuing her journey of scholarship and service. Dr. Carmen's pursuits have led her to explore the fascinating realm of the psychology of menstruation for the past decade, shedding light on a topic often overlooked in academic discourse. As the founder of Period of Enlightenment, she empowers individuals through education and advocacy, serving as a sought-after speaker for a wide array of audiences, from businesses and professional associations to community-based organizations. In academia and beyond, Dr. Carmen's commitment to excellence, coupled with her passion for fostering inclusivity and empowerment, continues to inspire students, colleagues, and communities alike. And she is our 61st Academic Senate faculty lecturer. Please join me in welcoming Professor of Psychology, Dr. Carmen McNeil.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I have so many thanks to share. First off, I just want to express some appreciation to the folks who nominated me for the faculty lecturer. So that's Dr. Mark Akiyama and also Dr. Daniel Catterson. They nominated me for this. And I just really wanted to lift up their names because these are two men who see the importance of this work, and men seeing the importance of this work is one of the key factors for dismantling the stigma. So thank you for those who nominated me. I also want to say thanks to the Faculty Senate for selecting me after being nominated and having the courage to create a space to have a public, connecting, respectful conversation about this particular topic. So thanks to all those folks. Thanks to you for being here in the room and both on Zoom. So I like to say we have roomers and Zoomers. So all of us are definitely welcome, and I appreciate all of you for being here. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I tend to move around a lot, so I'm gonna take this mic off and kind of move around. I think, let me see if I can do this. Yes, I absolutely can. So what we're going to be doing today, and actually I'm going to pull my slides back up to serve as our guide. So I'm going to pull that back up and see if I can, yeah. So I just wanted to go over, before we get in the midst of things, I just wanted to go over some intentions and also requests for our time together today. So obviously this is a topic that's considered taboo. And whenever you're discussing really any kind of topic, but particularly those that are considered taboo, it's important that we create a space of courageous connecting conversation. So that's one of the intentions that we'll be experiencing here today on this journey. So creating that space for courageous connecting conversations. I definitely want to encourage folks to be open with your heart. A lot of times we can get sort of caught up in our minds with some of this stuff. And it's going to be really important that you tap into your heart, tap into some compassion. That's really, really important. So I just wanted to encourage that as well. And then I just want everybody to know that everyone here needs everyone else's help. And what I mean by that is, in order for us to have connecting, courageous conversations, we need to know about everyone else's experiences. We need to know about everyone else's perspective. So we need your help. We need your help. At the end of our presentation today, I personally am going to need your help because I'm going to ask you for some feedback. I'm going to ask you to let me know what you thought, how you experienced that, and your feedback is definitely important to me. So I'm putting it out there in advance that I'll be asking for your help for that. So you have likely found a little music maker in your seat if you're here in the room. Yes. And what that's for, if you don't have one, there are a lot of extras. So go ahead and pick up one from an empty seat. And for our roomers, for our folks in the room, what that's for is whenever you hear a comment or see something that resonates with you for whatever reason, you can make a little music, make a little noise, let us know how you're doing. If you really want to support someone who shared something, you can, make your music maker. You can use it when someone shares a perspective or idea that you've never considered before, like maybe it's new and you're like, hey, that's really interesting. So that's how we're going to sort of engage for the folks who are in the room. And for our Zoomers, you can engage in the chat and let us know how you're doing if something resonates with you or stands out to you. So are we all good? We know how to use our music makers? Fantastic. And then finally, well, not finally, number 5, take care of yourself. Like we said, this is a topic that is considered taboo. And I'll tell you a little bit later about, I conducted about 20 interviews of folks on this topic. And this can be heart-wrenching for some folks. And I'll share a little bit more details, about that. There's a lot of trauma embedded in talking about the menstrual cycle and the experience of the menstrual cycle. So take care of yourself. You need to take a deep breath. You need to sit in silence, go walk around in the back of the room if you're here in person. That's really, really important to take care of yourself. And so I think we are now ready to get ready for our journey, okay? Because we're going to be going on a journey together. And it's important that we get ready for this journey. And how we're going to get ready is via an element of play. It is so important for adults to remember to play. And unfortunately, a lot of times it gets socialized out of us. And so much research out there supports the benefits of play for adults, of course, kids, but of course, also adults too. So play relieves stress. It is energizing. It builds connection. It actually fosters creativity and improves brain function. So we're going to do a little bit of play for 2 minutes. How many of you all remember, maybe from preschool, daycare, kindergarten, how many of you remember the hokey pokey? Anybody remember the hokey pokey? Yes. Well, we're about to do the hokey pokey. Yes, we are. So try something new, try it out. If you've never heard of the hokey pokey, I am so honored to be the one to introduce it to you. If you have heard of the hokey pokey and done it before, then this will be a wonderful throwback to your kindergarten or preschool days. By the way, for our Zoomers, this is for you too. So everybody rise, please. For our Zoomers, you rise as well. And we're going to do 2 minutes of the hokey pokey. Okay? Are we ready? Are we ready? Okay. Let's go. Pokey, pokey, people. Yeah, a little style. I like it. What's that? What's that? You put your head in, you take your head out, you put your head in, and you shake it all about. Get to the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. You put your knees in, you take your knees out, you put your knees in, and you shake them all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. You put your shoulders in, you take your shoulders out, you put your shoulders in, and you shake them all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. You put your elbows in, you take your elbows out, you put your elbows in, and you shake them all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. All right, as you sit, As you sit, I want you to shout hokey pokey on three. 1, 2, 3. Hokey pokey. All right. All right. So now we're ready. We're ready for the journey now, right? I hope that you are indeed ready for the journey. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to sharing my screen so that I can show you sort of our journey here today. I think I need to move something. There we go. So this is our roadmap. And so this is our suggested roadmap. This is my plan. I tend to be very, very flexible. So depending on what you all share, we might go in a different direction. Who knows? So the title of this talk is Dismantling Menstrual Stigma, Using Counter Narratives as an Act of Social Justice. That's what we're doing here today. So this is a suggested roadmap of what it is that we're going to be doing. In our time together today. So first off, we're going to start by defining what social injustice is. Okay, so we're going to do that. Related to that, we're going to have a conversation or talk a little bit about what counter narratives are. So we'll do that. I'm going to show you some examples of the lived experience of the menstrual stigma and what that can feel like, particularly from the 20 folks that I interviewed as a part of my sabbatical project, which I'll describe in just a second. We're also going to uplift the voices of those who have often been left out of this conversation. So we'll do that as well. And then finally, we'll end on a positive note and talk about some ways that we can reduce, maybe even eliminate this menstrual stigma. So this is our roadmap, okay? This is our roadmap. All right, so let's talk about what social injustice is, okay? These are some basic definitions of social injustice. You can find, all this on the internet. So I'm going to sort of read these basic definitions of social injustice. And then after that, I'm going to ask you, what are some examples of social injustice that you are familiar with? So here's our two definitions, just serving as examples. So 1, social injustice can take many forms. It permeates various aspects of our lives, from systemic discrimination in education and employment opportunities to prejudice and bias in social interactions. Okay, so that's one example of a definition of social injustice. Another one is understanding social injustice requires acknowledging the power dynamics and how privilege and disadvantage intersect. Recognizing that social injustices are not isolated incidents, but structural issues deeply embedded in societal norms and institutions is critical. So what are some examples of social injustices that you are familiar with? What's out there? Not a trick question. Yes, tell me your name. Josue? Yes.
I just thought of racism and systemic discrimination for people of color in our country. Yeah.
Absolutely, that's a social injustice. Yes. What are other examples of social injustice? You guys got this. You're all scholars. Yes. Tell me your name. Noah.
I was gonna say PG&E.
Say more.
PG&E is just the executive is where they're increasing rates for electricity, and then the CEO is getting more money. So I say we should take down PG&E. Let's go Bay Area.
Okay, okay. Other examples? Oh, yes. Tell me your name. Jack.
Maybe just like pay gap differences in the workforce between men and women. Yeah.
Yes. Gender differences in pay. Yes. Another one. Tell us your name.
I'm Gwen. Something that it's been on my mind recently is the discrimination against trans individuals and just how much everybody wants to deny them the, care that they want and need.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you got some noisemakers on that. Any other examples of social injustice? Yes, come over here. Tell us your name.
Allison, the hesitation to hire young mothers in the workforce.
Yes, thank you so much. So racial profiling is a social injustice, right? Disparities in sentencing is a social injustice in the criminal justice system. So you guys are very clear about various examples of social injustice, and we have something from our Zoomers.
We do several contributions online: healthcare, rollbacks in reproductive freedom and choice, redlining, allowing 40 to 50% of students to not progress past their first semester.
Thank you so much for our Zoomers. Are there more?
Refuse a loan or insurance to someone because they live in an area deemed to be a poor financial risk.
Yes. Okay, you guys are on it. You're on it with the social injustice. So now let's talk for a little bit about what counter narratives are, what this is. So when it comes to academia and the world of education, this idea of making sure, or first acknowledging that there have been some folks considered marginalized, their experiences left out of the discourse, left out of conversations, and the importance of bringing their experiences into the space. So folks who have traditionally been underrepresented, particularly in higher education. And so this idea of counter narratives it really encourages us to ask, whose voice is missing? Who's not being represented in, whatever it is that we're reading, whatever it is that we're talking about. So counter narratives are really, really important. And the reason that I'm talking about that is, so I mentioned to you that I did a sabbatical. I did that last semester. And as part of the sabbatical, what actually prompted the sabbatical was probably about 10 years ago. I really started looking academically at what I now call the psychology of menstruation. And what had me start, looking at this academically was actually teaching the psychology of women. And I started wondering, about the menstrual cycle. There's such a negative stigma about it. People are calling it Shark Week, and people are feeling like their bodies are cursed. And so I was thinking, well, wait a minute. This is a bodily process that's required for the human species to continue. Why is it looked at so negatively? Like it didn't connect in my brain. Like we need this. It should at least be revered. So those are the questions that I started thinking about 10 years ago. So I started really delving into this. And so as part of my sabbatical, I reviewed 20 introductory psychology textbooks to see how they addressed the menstrual cycle. How did they talk about it? What did they say? And even how they address the onset of the menstrual cycle, which is the technical term is called menarche, a person's very first period or menstrual cycle. And so from these 20 texts, most of them, if they addressed it, are you with me? If they addressed it, had very little information, like a short little paragraph. And what might be in that paragraph, what I found is it says, oh, well, biologically, the girl, because they use that term, the girl can now get pregnant. They talk about it as a part of puberty. And this is what she experiences as a part of that time of development in terms of adolescence. So that's what's there. And I started thinking, well, wait a minute. there's a whole lot more to this than that, than the biology of it. This is psychology. We're supposed to be talking about the social implications. We're supposed to be talking about the emotional and psychological implications. It's not there. It's not there. So doing a disservice in terms of not including that information. So I conducted 20 interviews of people of various ages from 18 to 77, people of a variety of ethnicities, gender identities, sexual orientations, to talk about their experience of the menstrual cycle, because we all have a period story, whether we menstruate or not, okay? And so that rich data, the rich data from the interviews, that's the counter narrative of what's in the textbook. And as educators, and even as people who are not educators, we need to be mindful and thinking critical about what's missing. What have we not considered? Okay, so that's what counter narratives are all about. What you think? So in these interviews, one of the people that are interviewed, as she was talking, and I mentioned earlier that, you know, there's a lot of trauma embedded in this conversation talking about the menstrual cycle. And one of the people that I interviewed, she described it as a scarlet letter of shame. Hit me in my heart, hit me in my womb when she said that. And so where that comes from, the reference of the Scarlet Letter, some of you may have read the book, The Scarlet Letter, written in the 1800s, basically about a woman who committed adultery. And she had to walk around in her society, in her community, wearing this big letter A, red A, on her clothes. And so she was always pointed out and shamed for committing adultery. Now, the man that she cheated with didn't have anything that happened to him. Double standard, different talk. So anyway, focusing on this scarlet letter of shame, so much shame is embedded in the menstrual cycle for a lot of people. And because there's shame, there is embarrassment. There is anxiety, not wanting people to know that you're on your period. There's a lot of fear about it as well. So this first video clip that I'm going to show you is not something that I created. It comes from YouTube. And it is a group of young people in the UK, so you'll hear their accents. But it's a group of young people, of teens, talking about the menstrual cycle. And it's really short, and I just want you, well, after you watch it, I'm going to ask you, what did you notice? Okay, I'm going to ask you, what did you notice after we watch this clip? All right, here we go.
What is a period?
I don't think I've ever really met many boys who have understood it.
It's just like when this thing like sheds and it comes out.
If it's your first time, then it's like a nightmare. Sometimes I cry for the reason. I don't know what it is, but I just cry.
The old egg, if it hasn't...
Being fertilized.
Yeah, and then it like goes.
Some kids my age don't know what it is.
Do you think you can control it when you're weak?
You've got two different holes down there. Oh my god, he just knows everything, doesn't he?
How often does a period happen?
I'm not sure, I don't know.
This just comes like once every month, doesn't it?
How much fluid do you think girls lose each period?
Well, it feels like that much.
Yeah.
It's not just like a waterfall, is it?
Wait, tell me when to stop then.
I don't know if it'll be more though.
Yeah, so
final.
3 cups.
That one, yeah.
What happens if you do a handstand during your period? Like, is it just like...
Wouldn't that look like shoot up like a volcano or something?
Mainly you feel really awkward. Just a bit uncomfortable and not really want to talk about it because then just end up laughing about it.
Boys don't know as well as girls, so I think they just make a bit of a joke out of it.
So I probably have been teased once or twice just by boys in passing. If you're grumpy or anything, they say, it's that time of the month.
I've seen people be teased and it just made her feel like really, really terrible for like the rest of the day, for the rest of the week.
You feel very alone.
You don't talk about your period, and it's like with your friends.
My friendship group, we call it Patricia. It's like a little name, so no one really knows what we're talking about. It's kind of obvious.
I feel like I've done something wrong to them to like make them not feel comfortable.
$1,000?
1,000, 2,000, 50,000.
You never know if someone's like they're fine where you're joking like outside, but you never know like what's happening like on the inside.
Making a joke is just a way for us to get, a little bit more comfortable.
What did you notice? Yes, I'll pass you the mic. Tell us your name.
I'm Holly. I was just gonna say that it was just like in general awkwardness from both sides. I mean, I think more so from the boys, but even the girls were like, you could see in their body language and in their voices the hesitancy to like, I don't talk about it. I don't want to talk about a period. It's so gross. It's so weird, like that awkwardness. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Holly. What else? What did you notice? Yes, passing you the mic. Tell us your name.
I'm Sydney. I noticed that, especially in the beginning, when they were first being asked like what a period was, all the girls, whenever they would speak, they would check the boys' reactions before they continued. And like they kind of kept it vague for their comfort almost, because once they started talking about like, oh, I named my period Patricia or whatever, like when they were talking to other girls, they seemed like a little bit more comfortable.
So what do you attribute them checking first?
I think there's a certain level of like, I guess, social reputation when it comes to guys where they feel they need to cater to being like, some girls pretend they don't even poop. So keeping that real.
Yes. Thank you, Sydney. Others, what did you notice? Yes, pass the mic on down.
Hi, I'm Susan. I noticed myself getting kind of emotional, which surprised me because I don't consider myself somebody that's felt a lot of trauma around my period, but I realized like hearing other people talk about it, I'm like, oh, I do have feelings about this that I didn't even realize.
Thank you, Susan. Anyone else? Oh, on Zoom, yes.
From Tracy online, no one has correct information about periods, including the young women. From Noel, 350,000 individuals missing school due to period stood out to me, and how surprised the males were to hear that. And from Vanji, wow, I had to reflect on the time when I was that age, and yes, the boys would joke around and the girls were shamed. So many students miss school.
Yes. Did anyone notice when the boys were talking and one of the boys, he said, well, can't you just control it? Like when you wee? When you wee means like when you go pee, okay? Can you control it when you go pee? No, the mechanics do not work like that, right? That's an example of the lack of knowledge, of the ignorance around the menstrual cycle and how it works. And then they had that conversation, well, what if you do a handstand and doesn't it just come out like a volcano? It does not. It does not. So we see the example of the lack of information, the lack of knowing, and unfortunately, that ignorance, which is just a lack of knowledge, is what helps to perpetuate the stigma. That's so important. Yes, Holly.
I just wanted to point another thing out, that it was shocking, I guess, yeah, shocking to see the boys, like when they were filling the cup to see how much blood they thought, like, of course, not that there's any shame to how much you bleed on your period, but it's like, they think that we're just hemorrhaging, right? Like, and it's like, which, you know, everyone's different, but like for them to think that that's like the normal thing that's happening. And I think it is surrounded in that, like, it's gross, you know, you're bleeding everywhere kind of thing. That was like, wow.
Thank you for that. Again, a lack of knowledge. And some of the girls thought that it was more, actually, they held up a whole pitcher, right, of red dyed water. Really, it's about 2 to 6 tablespoons, okay? Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. So this next clip that I'm going to show you it comes from some of the interviews that I conducted. And they're just folks sharing about the shame, okay? Sharing about the shame. And so I want you to see it as an example of how the stigma is a social injustice. So there are, I think, 3 clips in this segment. And again, after this plays, I'll ask you, what did you notice?
Of the shame that I'm talking about is kind of built into the culture. It's you can watch TV, you can be around elders who hey, we don't talk about that or make jokes about it or do whatever. It, teaches you, oh, that's kind of forbidden territory, which makes it both excitingly, exotic as well as confusing, as opposed to just wait, no, there's a bodily process. There's just a story here of the way a woman's body works when it's working the way it's supposed to work. And to me, that's the irony, right? Is that all of us live with a lot of the epigenetic awareness of like, what's a touchy subject? Who's supposed to talk about
elementary school or whatever, calling girls Bloody Mary and, she's, like really teasing girls, especially those that had an accident, so that's why I think it was such a big fear for all of us. Like, and that's why I thought it was just going to be this big explosion, of like blood everywhere.
And in regards to a lot of like school related things, it was very often like, try to open pad wrappers as quietly as you can because no one can know that you're on your period. And just kind of like a lot of shame and like stigma around having a period. So it was, it definitely became an inconvenience in ways that I didn't expect.
All right, folks in the room and folks on Zoom, what did you notice? Yes, let me come back here. What was that? Notice about periods, and you said fake being sick. Did I hear that correctly? So you noticed that from the video? Oh, that's an interesting observation. I haven't seen that one in there. Yes. Yes, Gwen.
I don't remember the man's name, but when he started talking, he just seemed so uncomfortable. Like, it's a topic, Jim, it's a topic that he seems like he knows a decent amount on, but he's still uncomfortable talking about it when others can hear him,
And when Joe was talking, he mentioned, for all these people, I asked them to sort of reflect back on their childhood, their tween years, their teen years, what was it like? How did you learn about the menstrual cycle? So, and what he was saying was that he used the words, this was uncharted territory. Like, men and boys weren't supposed to be talking about it. So how are they going to learn about it if they're not supposed to be talking about it? But you could see the nervousness or the discomfort in his body language. Yes, thank you for that. Anything else? What did you notice? Anything? Oh, yes.
This kind of goes back to the whole like boys not being able or like not supposed to talk about it. I think we kind of unintentionally reinforce that because whenever guys do talk about it, like if they don't have the correct information, we kind of immediately go after them. Like, you don't understand, like it is super painful and like blah, blah, but at least they're trying to talk about it in a certain sense. So
I love that. I love that. Absolutely. And a lot of times people who menstruate are socialized to keep it from people who do not. They're socialized to keep it a secret. They're not supposed to know, right? Because it's embarrassing if they do. And we have a comment on Zoom.
We do, from Melanie online. I remember feeling embarrassed when I saw a boy from school as I was buying menstrual supplies. And she continued, I noticed that I didn't hear any feel-good stories.
There were not any feel-good stories in that particular clip. Yes, anyone else? All right, excellent, excellent. So I told you earlier that we're going to be uplifting voices of some folks who have been left out of this conversation, or who are often left out of this conversation. And it was actually mentioned by someone earlier. And that is uplifting the voices of trans men. So trans men are folks who were assigned female at birth, or AFAB. I learned that new term from doing these 20 interviews. Hadn't heard of it before then, and was so glad that they shared it with me. And I was just so grateful for these men to come forward and share their experience of the menstrual cycle, because it's complicated, right? Like, it's already taboo. And so you add this other layer of, gender identity, and it becomes even more complicated. So I'm just really, really grateful to have the opportunity to talk with these men, because this was definitely a blind spot for me. I hadn't spoken with any trans men about, their menstrual experiences. So we're gonna watch another short clip. I believe it's two folks in this one. I have changed their names in honor of confidentiality, and you don't actually see them on screen. So let's take a look at their experience.
So growing up, I knew right off the bat I was never a girl. And then when I started to have my periods, and the female presenting people around me were very excited to get theirs, and I was just very disheartened and burdened by it. And I did not want this at all. And it made me very dysphoric and kind of wanting for me to, in a sense, tear out my own uterus because it was not mine. And I don't want this inconvenience of bleeding every month. That's not me. I'm not supposed to bleed, kind of deal.
We'll do one more.
I know that for a lot of other trans men, it can create a lot of dysphoria and it's just like a constant reminder that we have female bodies, and we're assigned female at birth. And for me, it's not quite like that, but it definitely changes my relationship to other AFAB people in my life, because especially those that identify as women, because there is this connection and there is this like community surrounding these shared experiences, and yet at the same time I'm not a part of them anymore. And so it's very weird sometimes to experience that disconnect. It's happened a few times even in my my psychology class that I'm taking at DVC, where the women in the class will talk about their experiences and I'll go, yes, I relate to that. And at the same time, I'm like, but I don't want to be considered a woman. So I tend not to speak up with those kinds of things. So in general, for me, it's very much like a social dysphoria type of thing. Whereas I know for other trans men, it is like a physical dysphoria.
So what stood out to you? What did you notice? What did you hear? What did you see? What did you feel? Yes, coming to you. Remind me of your name. Noah.
The one we just watched about the trans man, like saying they were afraid to like say that they also experienced having periods, because like in my experience in like psychology classes, people just say like the wildest stuff, and it's just like most out of pocket, you know. No, I don't want to like start cussing about what they say, but it's just a lot of, I feel like as a psych major, you know, we have like this like idea that like overthink a lot of things, and like even though, and like just overthink a lot of things, even though like I feel at the same time like we're like really like educated, because I feel like psychology is such a broad field, and like what we learn is like applied in a lot of things. So it was kind of like sad for me to hear that, but I don't, as a straight man, it's also kind of weird because I don't have any experience, but yeah.
Thank you for listening to them, Noah. Thank you. Others, what stood out? What did you see? What did you feel from those last two? Yes. Tell us your name again.
My name is Jack. And I guess just from Mike's experience, like the visualization of when they said like how they wanted to like tear out their uterus, and even how Tony wasn't that graphic, but even went into how they felt like a connection community, like with their people, and just like the distinctiveness between the two of them, you know, and just how you always feel like you're in the middle. I don't know, kind of just on the outskirts of the conversation. You know?
I got that sense too. Yeah. And some comments on Zoom.
Melanie says, hearing that is heartbreaking. And from LaRonda, thank you for bringing these voices forward.
All right. So quick little check-in in terms of our roadmap. We've talked about social injustice and counter-narrative. We've made the case for this menstrual stigma being a social injustice, with people walking around feeling like their bodies are less than, their bodies are cursed. This is not anything that they have control over. Feeling the shame, feeling the embarrassment, the fear, the anxiety. So now we're shifting gears to the last part of our roadmap, and that is talking about positive ways. What are some ways that we can reduce or maybe even eliminate the menstrual stigma? So what we're going to do is have a little bit of discussion. We're going to have a little discussion. And so we're going to get some breakout rooms set up on Zoom for our Zoom folks. And then here in the room, we're going to have, and I really want to leave the option up to you. So you can either get in pairs, or you can form a small group of like 3 or 4, totally cool. But there needs to be a mixture of genders in the group. There needs to be a mixture in your group of those who menstruate, or at least used to, and those who do not, or maybe have never menstruated. So would you guys like to divide yourselves? And ideally, you are speaking with someone whom you don't know. So I know there's a class in here, so you guys all know each other. So that might mean moving across the room, which is totally fine. Would you like me to divide you all? Because I don't see any moving, so you need to move now. Okay, let's come back. Let's come back to the large space, the large group. Definitely want to hear what came up in your group conversations for those folks in the room and also on Zoom. So let's get resettled here in the space. All right, so who can start us off, starting in the room? What came up for you in your conversations that you feel comfortable sharing? What came up? Yeah. Remind us of your name.
Josue, yeah. Well, I was just sharing with my group how it's very I don't want to say it's like a culture shock, but it's like a shock of sorts. Like when you think about it as guys, like it's something that takes up like very minimal space in like the guy brain. So it's very like interesting to like could like just think, you know, and be like, yeah, this is like a really big part of like womanhood, you know, especially because like you know, guys dwell on it less than like women do, you know, for like obvious reasons. But I think just and that's where the door may open to like misunderstanding and like that stigma, you know, and like that kind of shame and like judgment. So I think we were talking how like broadening like just like the question of like, you know, who is this conversation for, you know, broadening like the scope of the people who are gonna hear it, would be a really good way to combat the stigmas. So yeah.
Love that, Josue. Thank you. Tell us your name.
I'm Eileen. So I forgot to tell this to my group because it was towards the end. But one thing, I went to El Salvador during the winter, and I've noticed that there was a lack of tampons. And then I reflected back in my childhood where my mom told me I couldn't wear tampons because then I'd lose my virginity. And so I would think that I think we should also educate women like properly, not just men, but women. So yeah.
Thank you. What else came up? Anything else? Oh, yes.
One of the first things that my group discussed was regarding funding, as well as addressing the problems within the medical field surrounding how women are treated regarding menstruation, especially like the gynecologist. I can't talk today, but you know what I'm saying. It's just there's a lot of mistreatment and trauma that comes from that field specifically that could be addressed, I would say.
Thank you. Yes.
Kind of just piggybacking off of that, something that like was just really interesting to me is even recently from what I've seen as just like a DVC student is in like the all gender restrooms, the inclusion of like menstrual products, which I think was like something even just recently that was passed. But even like federally, how I think like menstrual products are still considered like cosmetics. That's why they're not tax exempt. Is something that's just like just super interesting, and the advocacy really just starts from like our day-to-day things to change like that federal aspect of it. So, yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Something brought up in my group was the lack of education for boys, like how in like 5th grade, boys and girls are separated and girls learn about periods. And I do not think that there should be any sort of separation when learning about the human body, and it's, you know what happens.
Any Zoom folks?
If Tracy said, Tiffany and I discussed that early education needs to take place so that it is more normalized. And there you go. Vanjie says education to all, more in detail. And please add menopause because I am not crazy. I feel off balanced. I am having a hot flash and many more. LOL.
Yeah, so thank you for all of that. And, I could elaborate on, each one of the comments that you guys just shared. But I wanted to talk about a little bit about what Josue was sharing in terms of guys. I just love how you couched it. Like, this doesn't take up a whole lot of space in my world, right? Which is accurate. And so I really want to encourage have conversations with your sister. Have conversation if you're in a romantic relationship with someone who menstruates. Have a conversation, initiate it, lean in from a place of love. Like, I really want to understand this. Keeping in mind that a lot of people who menstruate have been socialized to keep it away from you. Okay, to keep it a secret from you. But when you lean in with your intention coming from a place of love and really wanting to understand, it builds so much connection. Trust me, trust me. All right. So to help us close out a little bit on a positive note, we are going to watch another short clip. It's 3 people. And so the first one is actually Kathy Bennett, who is our mental health counselor here at DVC. The second person you'll see is Helen, and she is actually a puberty educator, a health educator. And then we'll round out with LaRonda, who actually used to be a health educator. And so I want you to pay attention to what it is that they have to offer.
I think teaching puberty to young people was very reparative and restorative for me. And it was like I was giving these folks an experience that was the opposite of what I had. And like in that curriculum, it's like it's the OUSD curriculum and it's the most progressive in the country. Like it's really cool. And like we don't even say boy and girl, we say like bodies with vulvas, bodies with penises. And everyone is in the same room. We don't ask people to pick a gender. And it's really, that was really restorative because it's so de-shaming. And, you know, the boys in the class wanted to talk about periods. You know, they like, and I would ask questions like, say you see someone and they got their period and it bled through their pants. What are some things we might say or not say to that person, you know, and the boys would be like, I would pull her aside and I'd say, excuse me, but I think you might have got your period. You probably need to go to the bathroom. You know, so.
Well, first of all, I think there should be inclusive, comprehensive sex ed starting as early as 4th grade when girls get their period. And so if you are getting your period in 4th grade and you don't have puberty class until 7th grade, which is the required California Healthy Youth Act, like mandated time that schools need to provide it, then there's a gigantic gap where there can just be complete miseducation, misinformation, ignorance, and therefore bullying that occurs between the ages of 9 to like 14. And so that's like the crucial period of time. And so that's kind of what I see as the missing gap, is that in places where I teach, you know, at an older age or a younger age, there really is, so the age, so starting younger, but then also mixing the genders or having it inclusive so that boys or, you know, biological sex, you know, boys, basically everybody should be learning it all together. And so sometimes I often have parents talk about how they don't want, they want girls only classes or boys only classes so that people feel comfortable. But I actually think that it is really necessary for everyone to learn about periods, even, or just everything that happens to everybody in puberty. So there's just kind of a lack of consistency across the board that I see with education, where we're not, it's not taught, and so it's not normalized. And if it's not normalized, then of course there's going to be like secrecy and shame and negative feelings around it.
We celebrate this time ourselves. We share with other women we know. We certainly share with young girls and, like I said, young boys at the same time, to make this an understanding of something natural. Like I was always made to feel, you know, by my mom and my aunts, and like I was special because I could have a period, you know, so you kind of sat up straight, you know, it's like, ooh, you know, my little cousin boy, you ain't special as me, you know. So it always felt like this thing that was magical, and like everybody doesn't get to do this. Like you hold all this power in yourself. And I was like, you know, I could have flew off the top of the building.
So what's your takeaway from those last 3 clips? What stood out to you as far as ways that we can help to reduce the stigma? Anything? Yeah, let me get you the mic.
My name is Diego. I'll say that what the video said is just like, first of all, everybody should know about this because you're going to be around people that are going to experience this, and you don't want to be that person says like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to crawl to my corner. And then second of all, it's really to like, if we know more about this, we don't get to have this really bad behavior that surrounds people, like that surrounds people who don't deal with menstruation with people who do. Like there's this one thing I saw where it's like there's this one guy who just tracked all his friends' menstrual cycles in a sitcom that I watched, and it's like that's not okay. First of all, if you have something better to do in your life, but second of all, like just like really like it's none of your business to begin with. So that's what I think the video tries to tell us.
Thank you. So, oh, and Zoom, yes.
Melanie online says include parents training to bridge the conversation.
Salt being
kids receiving school.
Absolutely. Thank you, Melanie. Yes, yes. So last month I gave this talk as a part of the social justice speaker series. And at the end of the talk, there was one of your fellow DVC students who came up to me and he said, you know, my younger sister is 13 and we're really close. And I don't know if she started her period and I want to be able to talk to her about it. What should I say? I could have cried in that moment because that question was the point of this conversation. Like that was the perfect example of having these inclusive, connecting conversations. So my question to you is, you know, how will you choose to engage in social justice action to help to dismantle this stigma around the menstrual cycle? And it could be you're an older brother talking to your younger sister, and that's the way that you do it. Or maybe you know, are witnessing some bullying or teasing, and you speak up and put a stop to it and say that that's not okay. There are a lot of different ways that we can engage. So we have, if that clock is right, 5 minutes left. Yes, so time flies when you're having a good time with Dr. Carmen. And so I told you in the beginning, thank you. I told you in the beginning that I was gonna need your help and ask for your feedback. So I'm gonna put that slide up. And there are a couple ways that you can share your feedback just for folks on Zoom and folks in the room. So you can either use this QR code, you can also use this link, or I also have some hard copy feedback forms if you just want to write. And your feedback is really, really, really important. So would anyone like a hard copy form? Great. Anyone else? So I'm going to be quiet for a few minutes while you complete your evaluation. It's anonymous, so be as forthright as you like. There are pretty much 3 basic questions. And so, yeah, I'm gonna be quiet now. So I see that some of you are done with the feedback form, which is totally cool. If you're not done, that's cool too. Keep on going. If you have another commitment to get to after this, I completely understand. And I just want to thank everyone for coming and for participating, sharing your experiences, sharing what you noticed. That's for the folks on Zoom and the folks here in the room. So I just really, really want to express my appreciation. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And very quickly before everyone departs, just again, on behalf of the entire Academic Senate Council, want to take a moment to thank Dr. Carmen and appreciate you all being here and joining us today on Zoom and here in person. So thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Carmen, so much.